Hi, welcome back to another Intro to Jazz Vinyl in 2021. Today we're going to talk about the Blue Note Classic Vinyl Reissue series. This is a great example of why 2021 is really one of the greatest years in recent history to get into collecting jazz vinyl. It's a new series from Blue Note, and this one is notable because it is a series in which Blue Note is reissuing some of their most famous titles of all time. In the vinyl community, these are frequently referred to as the war horses. So if you hear people talking about the war horses, what they're talking about are the most popular, most sought after releases in some record company's catalog. And the war horses are interesting because you have people that are always clamoring for the war horses to be reissued at the highest quality or at a good price or whatever. And then you also hear people complaining about the fact that only the war horses are being reissued and they want some of the deep cut titles to come. The Blue Note Classic Reissue series is cool for a lot of reasons, one of which is that you do have some of the war horses. This is Horace Silver's Song for My Father. And if you don't know that record, you may recognize the title track bass line because Steely Dan borrowed that lick for Ricky Don't Lose That Number. I've got another one here. This is Something Else by Cannonball Adderley. This is more or less a Miles Davis album, kind of a close cousin of Kind of Blue from 1958. And that's an awesome album, super famous. This one is a great album and I love it. It's probably not going to be in anybody's top 20 list. It's someone's top 20 list, but it's not going to be in a lot of top 20 lists. So this is probably not a war horse, but it's a great album, part of this series. So let's unpack a little bit about what's going on with this series. First off, you can spot it in the wild. This is what the hype sticker looks like. I don't usually cut these off, but I did just to be able to show this to you. Let's look at the jacket here. What we have is nice, but not over the top direct to board. So the image here is printed straight on this pretty lightweight cardboard. I did get a seam split here, which isn't a big deal, but it's not the sturdiest jacket, but it looks good. The printing is sharp. The color quality is good. Earlier this year, I very briefly had an original copy of Song for My Father in my possession, and this didn't look as sharp as an original, but it definitely held up pretty well. For Something Else, of course, the quality of the jacket is less of an issue because there's no picture. This is just a graphic design, and this looks great. The back, this image isn't quite as sharp, but actually I have a lot of reissues of this record, and this image never really looks that great. I think maybe the original photo was lost, and nobody is able to reproduce that very well. But of course, the jacket's not the most important part. So what are we working with on the actual records? Well, what we have here and what makes the Blue Note Classic Reissue series so exciting for people is that this is a real top shelf treatment of the analog tapes to get an affordable reissue to jazz enthusiasts or people just getting into the hobby, but also people who've been in the hobby for a long time are still loving these records because we're taking the original analog tapes. We are hearing them mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. So if you saw my last video, now some of these terms will be more familiar. The lacquer is cut by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. The lacquer is then taken to RTI, Record Technology Incorporated, and the metalwork to produce the records, to stamp the records, is made at RTI. And then all of that is shipped to Germany to a pressing plant called Optimal. Optimal is a great pressing plant, and I think the idea is that by sending those to Germany, Universal Music Group, which owns Blue Note and so many other labels, is able to produce these, one, in a really high volume, and two, for worldwide distribution. So another thing about this series that's great is that people who are into record collecting that aren't living in North America really have a much easier time getting these records at an affordable price than some of the other reissue series that are all done within the United States, and then it's difficult to get them exported. So The quality of these records is really as high as it could be. The only gripe that is pretty common is that these records, out of the box, they come in a really comically tight paper sleeve. That is, it can be very difficult to remove it from the inner sleeve. And people have put photos on the internet of having scratched the records, just pulling it. I didn't do a very good job of displaying that. Just pulling it out of the inner sleeve. You can get around that entirely by re-sleeving them in different inners. Again, this is like a rice paper style inner, and either cutting it out of the inner sleeve or just tearing the paper off, and then you won't have any issues with that. So these records sound great. They retail for anywhere between $22 and $27. Sometimes you can find them on a 3-for-2 super sale, either through Universal or through Target or through Amazon. And it's a great time to be getting into collecting jazz vinyl, because not only are these really high quality, and they were really carefully and thoughtfully done, and they're affordable, but also this is a series that's going to be going on for some time. So it's curated by Don Was, the president of Blue Note Records, for you. You can you can just keep buying these and get introduced to different types of music and learn some different players. So for example, Joe Henderson is on this record. If you like the saxophone playing on this one, Joe Henderson's Page 1 is also part of the Blue Note Classic Vinyl Reissue series. And you can pick that one up. This series is going to go on for years to come, it seems, and you can guarantee that these records are all going to sound as good as they possibly can for how far removed we are from their original recording, and they're going to be titles that are historically significant or musically significant, artistically significant, and I think anybody who's into jazz and record collecting is very excited about these. So that is the Blue Note Classic Vinyl Reissue series. There's one other thing that I want to mention quickly, just to put on your radar, which is this something else here is not the same as the one I showed you earlier, which was this one. Now these look identical. The records themselves are a little bit different. The one I just showed you, the new one, is actually it's in mono. So when you see a Blue Note record that says 33 1/3 microgroove, 33 1/3 microgroove, that means it's in mono. And the other one, the Blue Note Classic Vinyl Reissue series, is in stereo. What's happening here, and really this is the easiest way to tell, you can see the 75 inside of the Blue Note logo. This is from the Blue Note 75th anniversary series, which is a different series. This Blue Note Classic Vinyl Reissue series is actually a continuation of the Blue Note 80th anniversary series. The 80th anniversary of Blue Note was in 2019, which means that the 75th anniversary was in 2014. Why is this important? Because there are still a lot of these 2014 Blue Note 75th anniversary records in the wild. People still have lots of new old stock of these, and they're not bad, but they're different. And depending on who you talk to, there are people out there that will tell you those are terrible. So I'll just say that they're different. I actually really like my Blue Note 75th issue of something else. I think it's great. But just be aware that they're not the same thing. And sometimes people selling records, if they're not a record store, if it's just somebody who is selling something on eBay, or I don't know how they came across it, but people aren't always aware that they're two different things. So if you are looking for the absolute rock bottom price and you see something else on Amazon for sale for $9, you're probably buying the Blue Note 75th anniversary edition, which again, I think is great. That's different than the Blue Note Classic Vinyl Reissue series. And one of the differences is that the record was, well, there's lots of differences. These Blue Note 75th anniversary editions are rumored to have been cut from files. They're digital files of the analog master tapes. So there's a digital step in there. They were also cut by a different person. They were plated at a different place. They were pressed at a different plant. So it's a whole different vibe. That's not better. It's not worse, but it is different. And just want to make sure anybody watching this knows about that. So in the next video, we will talk about the parent series of the Blue Note classic vinyl reissue series, the Blue Note 80th series. But I hope this gives you some information to help you understand the jazz landscape right now with record reissues on Blue Note. And I hope that you'll check out some of these Blue Note classic vinyl reissue series because they're all great. That's it. Thanks for watching.